when I bought the two Jeeps, I bought one for overlanding and one for rock crawling. And I picked them both at the same time just to figure out which one I liked better. Now, I've did both and I enjoyed both. My wife enjoyed overlanding much more than rock crawling. I enjoyed overlanding more than rock crawling because in the long run, it was cheaper because I wasn't breaking stuff. I think overlanding beat out rock crawling because she enjoyed it. And I enjoyed both the same amount. But because it was something that we both enjoyed, was overlanding more, then I decided, okay, that beat out the rock crawling. At the end of the year, my Gladiator had 36,000 kilometers on it, and my Wrangler had 6,500 kilometers on it.
Warning. The 4x4 Canada podcast contains discussion about exploring mountains, camping beside lakes, and enjoying the outdoors. Guests also talk about jumping race trucks side by side, racing 1,000 horsepower rigs across mud pits, and jumping monster trucks over stacks of buses. None of this is for the faint of heart. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for bringing out your inner adrenaline junkie or making you want to get out there and explore the back roads from coast to coast. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for broken parts due to jumping your vehicle, hitting mud poles too hard, crossing deep streams, and doing other dumb shit. However, we will take credit for inspiring you to explore mountaintops, spend quality time outdoors with your friends, or meeting new like-minded people, and most importantly of all, following your dreams.
Welcome, guys, to the 4x4 Canada podcast. I'm your host, Trisha.
And I'm your host, Wes.
And I'm Johnny from Jendell Overland.
Welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast, Johnny. Looking forward to this. We've been bouncing back and forth with emails and messages, and you got a great YouTube channel based out of Ontario, and can't wait to get into that. But I do want to do a couple quick housekeeping things real quickly. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, you're getting something from it, please tell your friends about it, share it around, and also remember to subscribe or like on whatever particular app you happen to listen to. The podcasts are also going on to YouTube as well, the full length podcast. So if you're not listening on the app, you can always go to our YouTube channel, 4x4 Canada podcast on YouTube, and you can listen to them there. There is no video on them right now, and that's something that we are working with YouTube on as well, but you can definitely listen to them there. We do have some new videos that will be coming up over the next little bit, some product review videos. I've got a brand new 5-gallon gas can, a Broderpack style can from our friends at Myoli Gear. And it's a new product for him. And we interviewed him about a month ago, I think it was, Trisha?
Yep.
Yeah, about a month ago. And we were talking about his new gas cans. And he said a 5-gallon is 1.3 liters. I'm like, that's perfect for a diesel heater. That's perfect size. And so I got one. It arrived in about 4 or 5 days ago and looks like really good quality. I'm going to get it mounted up and we'll do a product review on it. And it's going to be quite interesting. So the other thing to remember is that Myoli Gear, MIOLLE.ca, you can get a 10% discount with the code of 4x4. So keep an eye out. I'll be letting you guys know when the video hits up on YouTube, and we'll see what we think of this little gas can. Now for the fun stuff. Johnny, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Merrick. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, not a problem. This is a pleasure. I've been watching your videos for a while now. I'm going to say probably a little bit over a year. And yeah, it's been interesting watching you grow and watching your Jeep grow, or Jeeps grow. And I think one of your first videos I saw was one of your earlier Overland North events. And look into that later on about their events. But whereabouts are you based? I know you're in Ontario, but you're west of Toronto, aren't you?
Actually, I'm based out of London. So
okay, that's what I thought.
2 hours outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes a bit of a haul going over up to Wheeling above the GTA and up in Muskoka and stuff like that.
Oh, it's this place, it takes me 5 hours to get to it.
Wow.
There's nothing anywhere near where I am.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Wes, do you feel our pain? Do you feel our pain?
I was going to say, Trisha's down in Toronto, so it takes her 5 hours to get out of Toronto. It's just funny. I went camping real quickly on the other night just to try out my new diesel heater and to make sure things all cool. And I was at that campsite in about 6 minutes from my house.
Not fair. Not
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Kamloops, British Columbia.
Okay.
So,
I lived in Chilliwack back in the 80s. So.
Oh, yeah. 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 That's probably changed a lot since you've been there.
Oh, I bet you that.
Yeah. I was in Toronto for 10 years as well, too. So I feel you guys' pain, but London is a beautiful area. It's lots of farming over in that area, very flat, but you're actually not that far. You start heading north and you're up into that Bruce Peninsula and that. So
that's right. Yeah.
A very beautiful area over there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up in a camping and exploring family?
See, my family, we went to campgrounds once in a while, probably once or twice a year, but that was campgrounds. That wasn't anything 4x4. So no, not really. When I was a teenager, I was in Air Cadets and we did some survival camping through that, but that's not really related to the overlanding at all. It just gave me some skills.
So what happened? What brought you to, was it the fact you picked up a Jeep and then saw other people camping and exploring? You got out wheeling, or what ended up bringing you into the Jeep world?
Actually, when I was a little kid, I always loved Bert, but I wasn't always a Jeep guy. Okay. For most of my adult life, I was a car guy. And I actually owned and built my dream car, which was a 1977 Trans, and it was identical to Smokey and the Bandit.
I was going to say that. I saw that on your Instagram. And the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. That is so awesome.
So I traded a 76 Corvette Stingray for it. And when I got it, it was like a basket case. And I tore all the panels off of it. And it was full of Bondo, if you guys know what that is. And I had to replace all of that with steel and built it back up into a show car. So that gave me my passion for customizing vehicles and building it to be my own. Now, TV and movies have always been a huge influence on me. And I know that Jurassic Park probably stirred a lot of love for Jeeps.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't do it for me. But I've loved Jeeps since I was a little kid. And I remember a show, you probably remember it, Wes. Trish, you probably don't know this show, but it was called Fantasy Island.
Okay.
And they drove around with no doors on and no roof on. And I saw it and thought, wow, that's cool. That is really cool. And I wanted to get one of those. I did buy a TJ. That was my first vehicle. Or not my first vehicle, but my first 4x4 vehicle. Yeah. And it was pretty decent for what a TJ was, right? We're pretty spoiled with JLs. But I love that thing. But then I deep dove into the car scene and got away from the Jeep for a bit. So,
and then you brought your red Jeep, right?
It's funny. So I went to a car show in a small town called Strathroy, which is about half an hour from here. And at these shows, there's always these classic cars and muscle cars. Well, the local dealership was showing a Rubicon that was built right up. It had a 4-inch lift on it. It had 40-inch tires on it. And I looked at it and I was like, whoa. I brought my Trans Am there, but I left thinking about this Jeep the entire time. So later on that week, I went back to Strathroy and I went shopping and I purchased my first red JLU. It was a 2020 Sahara.
Nice. Trisha is a red Jeep fan. Her Jeep is red. And so she's red Jeep owners unite.
There's very few of us,
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of black ones and a lot of white ones.
A lot of white Jeeps, basically mostly white Jeeps. So I'm like the odd red one at either the back or in the middle. I'm always there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So another question I know Trisha absolutely loves to ask guests is, and I'm going to ask it for her, what did you name that red Jeep?
Yeah.
You got a name for it.
The 2020? It was actually called Mole Crawler.
Okay.
But MAUL.
Oh.
We play on words because I was mauling the rocks when I was going up. I found that most people didn't get it.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, you're driving a mall crawler." And they roll their eyes at me, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny.
That is a great play on words, though, for sure. So you've still got that red 2020 JLU.
No, the one that I have is actually 2022. So,
okay.
So when I got the 2020 Sahara, I ended up customizing the heck out of it. I was subscribed to this channel called Blacked Out Jeep Wrangler, and he's actually from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still subscribed to him, but he doesn't do Jeep content anymore. And he really influenced me on building my Jeep. And I changed my fenders and my grill, which I changed it back after a month. Put on a budget lift and added a whole bunch of unneeded mole crawler accessories. So now I can admit it. I was really caught up in the excitement of customizing my Jeep for the aesthetic pleasure rather than the function.
Yep. Which there's nothing wrong with that.
But you know what? It was a really good learning curve. Yep. I realized, hey, this looks cool, but it doesn't add anything to the Jeep. And I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. Once I got my 2020 Wrangler, I knew what to do and what not to do with it.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a good learning experience, right? And a lot of people, they don't go off-road with their Jeeps. That's just a fact of life. And for them, just looking good works, right? So what brought you to go modify? Now, you got your 2022 after you decided that things weren't quite, you got started four-wheeling it a bit and decided to need some changes, or?
I didn't know much about the difference between Sahara and Rubicon.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself when I bought the Sahara, I'm not going to go off-roading. I don't need all these extra gadgets. And then I realized, I bought the sway bar disconnect kit, and I got under there when it was all muddy, and I had to unhook it and hook it back up. The convenience of that button alone is worth the price of admission. The lockers, lights before lockers, we've heard that term before. I had lights before lockers. And figured this time I'm not going to go that route.
Yeah.
I put an order in for 2 Jeeps at the exact same time, and one of them was the Gladiator and one was the Wrangler. And
you still got them both.
We'll get to that.
Okay. Okay. So let's stick with the red one, the 2022 that you have. You've got some mods on that. It's a great looking Jeep, by the way. It's a beautiful looking Jeep. What have you got for modifications on that one?
So I built my Gladiator and my Wrangler identical to each other.
Okay. All right.
So everything that's on the Gladiator is on the Wrangler. Mm-hmm. I put a 3.5-inch Terraflex lift on it.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that with the Gladiator, I saw some sag in the back. So I wound up putting 4.5-inch Evo springs in the back just to kind of level it out a bit, because there's a lot of weight on the back of that, right? Yeah. I went with the Alpine adjustable arms with it, the Falcon shocks on both, put a 12,000-pound Warren winch on both. Let's see, what else did I do with that? I got the fuel vector rims.
Yep.
On both, the 17-inch with Nito trail grapplers.
37s?
37s, yep.
Yep.
37s on both, yeah. I started off with the KO2s, and I realized that they don't really grab the rocks when you're rock crawling. They were just a little bit slippery for me, so that's why I wound up going with the trail grapplers.
Gotcha.
Which I'm glad I did, because those things are awesome.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of fans, for sure. Yeah. I know Trisha's one of them.
Yeah.
So you've got a good running gear under there. You got the Rubicon running gear under there. You got the good tires and suspension and that. You mentioned the winch on the front. So these vehicles are pretty much set up identical.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So I bought the two, and I made them compete against each other. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want one to be better than the other. I wanted them to fight for my affection, I guess you can say. One not be better than the other, but to be identical. So that's why I went that way.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the blue Gladiator, it's set up a bit more for overlanding, or have you got a lot of overlanding gear in the red JLU as well?
So my Sahara was an Overlander for the last 2 months that I owned it. I installed the rooftop tent on top of it first.
Yeah.
And the reason why I went with the Gladiator is because with the tent on the Sahara, it was really top heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was on trails, it almost felt like I was going to tip it. Once I put that on the Gladiator, it wasn't top heavy at all. Couldn't even what was on there. The width
Because this cab height, isn't it? Or just a little bit above the cab?
The cab height is 7 feet, and with the tent, it's 8 feet.
Okay. Yeah. So not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a different wheelbase and stuff like that helps out too. So you set the Gladiator up they didn't come in at the same time, did they? These vehicles?
No. So my Gladiator, I ordered them both the same day. My Gladiator actually arrived on my birthday, which was New Year's Eve.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah. Talk about a happy birthday present. Right?
New Year.
But I didn't take it home that day. I actually sent it off and got the lift put in it before I drove it for the first time. Because I didn't want to miss that. I wanted my very first time to be the way it's always going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Gladiator set up a bit more for your overlanding. What have you got in there for overland gear? You mentioned you got a rooftop tent now. What tent are you running?
Yep. So I got the Quick Pitch.
Yeah.
They're actually, the company that I bought it from are based out of BC now. They used to be in Alberta, but they're made in South Africa.
Yeah.
And I've tried a bunch of tents, and this one is the most comfortable. The mattress on it is more comfortable than my bed upstairs in my house.
That's wonderful. Are you running the Quick Tinge awning as well?
I got the Quick. Sorry, I didn't write this part down.
Nope.
I've got the Yakima.
Okay.
Major Shady. Yep. So it's a freestanding awning, which I did have the Batwing, and it wasn't a freestanding awning. So I went with the Yakima because sometimes you're parked on rock and you can't bury the poles in the dirt at all.
Yeah. Have you been pretty happy with it? I don't know anybody that has that particular one installed and has personal experience with it. So just curious what your thoughts are on it.
I've been in some pretty windy spots and it's held up. So yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Yeah. Now this was something that I purchased on my own and now a buddy of mine, Mark, who you've seen in a bunch of my videos with me, he picked up his first because he went out and got the Ursa Minor, and that was the one that actually bolted up nice with his.
Yeah.
And when he showed me his, I actually liked the way it looked. It's got the topo map on actually a design that's actually on the awning. So that was a selling point too, right?
Yeah. Nice. And what else you got for overlanding gear on the blue one, on the Gladiator?
So I've got the deck system, which is really good for a lot of my gear. I can't reach all the way into the back, especially with how high my lift is. I've got the Dometic 45-liter fridge, which I just love. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm going with the Jet Boil 2-burner stove. And you'll see me cooking supper and lunches with that.
Yeah, I saw that in some of your videos. But you've also got like a scuttle and a couple other things too, right?
Now, the scuttle I always use for breakfast. You can't beat eggs on that thing. That thing's awesome. It's the iCamper scuttle.
Okay.
That's what I got. Yeah. I love that thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, I've got a few friends with them, and it's been interesting watching them cook up these meals, and that's pretty cool. I have to admit, I thought it's just an overlanding thing or whatever you want to call it, right? But after watching a few guys with them, like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I could get into that. So
now I got to admit, you're clamping when you get into the scuttle. Right?
Yeah,
it's definitely a luxury item, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not needed. And if it's on a budget, then you don't absolutely need it. But it is an interesting thing for sure. And I don't know if I really mentioned it earlier, but people can find you at Jendell Overland, and it's JENDL Overland on YouTube and Instagram.
That's right. And Facebook as well.
And we'll throw those in the show notes, and we'll mention it again at the end for you guys.
Awesome.
And our Instagram as well too.
So I had a question about the Gladiator.
Oh, okay.
Now I see like on the Gladiator, a lot of people don't have this, but you have a hard case shell, like a cab in the back for your trail bed. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't see a lot of people here that run that. Is that something you got recently, or is something you got off right off the bat when you got the Gladiator? Like,
So I ordered the Gladiator specifically to be an Overlander.
Mhm.
It took a few months to order. Once I ordered it, it was on back order because we were still right in the midst of COVID. So it's an RSI cap is the name of the brand, and they're also out of South Africa. And it's a stainless steel cap that goes on top. And I picked that one because of the security on it. It's hard metal and it's lockable on all
yeah, I see
sides.
it's lockable. Yeah.
Mhm. I've seen some of the YouTubers out there that have an open backle
Mm-hmm.
and all the dust and water gets in on all of their equipment. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be all sealed as to protect my goods that I'm carrying along with me for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's great. It looks good also.
Mhm.
It looks good on the Gladiator, but I like how you do have the security of the key locks. And you're right, you get to keep everything clean,
Mhm.
safe, and inside and tucked away. A lot of guys have like the racks on the sides and usually have like their gear mounted there. So
Yeah.
it's a good setup. I like it.
Now, one of the things is the roto packs. I've seen some people that mount them on the outside, but with where I have my stairs to get up into my Jeep, can't mount anything on the side doors. On the other side is where my awning is. So unfortunately, with this design, I can't
You
put
can't
anything
mount
on the
it
outside.
on the outside.
Which is okay too, I think. It's safer in regards to theft. I just had my vehicle broken into, so don't get me started on theft. But so it's easier that way. And
Mhm.
the fact of you don't have anything hanging off the side of your vehicle is a little easier going through some of the trails and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
for
right?
I was just
So,
going to mention that too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
For sure.
if you slam into the side of a tree or something and you got a rotopack there, that could be pretty dangerous.
yeah, definitely. And there's lots of times where branches are coming down and we just push through them, but they can hang up on a rotopack or on recovery boards. And most of them are small enough, it's not a big deal, but there's still
Mhm.
bigger ones in there.
Yeah. And my Gladiator's got lots of pinstriping, that's for sure.
So we were talking about my new diesel heater earlier. Are you a winter camper or?
Definitely. Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So have you got a diesel heater?
I just picked up the Viver.
Same one I grabbed. Yeah. And yeah, I'd say I tried it the other night and I've been pretty happy with it so far. And I got a lot of friends that run them as well too. Before, did you do much winter camping before you had that? Or is this going to be a big push for you this year?
So this will be my first time using it. So last year
Yeah.
I did go and do quite a bit of winter camping, and all I had was my buddy heater.
Yep.
You'd have to leave your windows open because of the exhaust, and you got lots of condensation inside the tent because it's a wet heat.
Yep.
This dry heat is going to be nice. We haven't had any snow in Ontario yet.
Yeah.
I got a story till now this morning actually, and he was driving through some pretty snowy trails up there in BC.
Yeah. We're lucky in town here. We haven't got any snow, but it's all around us. So it's coming. So it's going to happen. So
I can't wait.
do you guys, this is, a question for both you and Trisha, I guess. We are so lucky in BC and other provinces that we do have the ability to do a lot of winter wheeling. We have a lot of snowmobile guys up here and they have their sections, and then 4-wheel drive guys have the rest of the province kind of idea. But you guys have a really unique snowmobile trail system in Ontario and very well maintained, very well run. Is there much room left for you guys to do much winter wheeling?
A lot of trails are shut down during the winter for those snowmobile trails.
Yeah.
So we're stuck to logging roads, and we pretty much have to stay off the trails, which that's fine. There's lots of logging roads in Ontario.
They need to stick to some of the rec sites or something like that, right? Where, that's one thing I've really noticed is a big difference between that. I did notice, speaking of the winter, I did notice in one of your videos I was watching like a week or two ago, where you guys have just got some heated van.
Oh, yeah.
But yes. What, and it just makes life a little easier for when it is cool outside in these winter months. What were the heated jackets all about?
I got an email from somebody who wanted me to try out some of their products. And it was a company called iHood. And they were like, hey, would you be interested in trying some heated jackets? Now, my wife doesn't like the cold. She doesn't come winter camping with me. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll try this and maybe she will come winter camping with me.
Yeah.
And they sent them out to me and we tried them on. And she actually went, it wasn't a winter camping, but it was a cold camping night.
Yeah.
And she tried them on and she was actually pretty warm. So that's exciting. So I know I'm not going to get her out into the snow when it's minus 14, 15 out.
No.
But she came out with me a couple weeks ago and this is her first time going out into the cooler air. I think it was 6 or 7 degrees out, which is pretty cool for her. And she was there and the jacket kept her really warm. It's got 3 different spots. I think it's the chest, the back, and up in the top back of the neck area that warms up just by the push of the button on these jackets. So yeah, it was definitely a pretty neat thing. And I think that a lot of overlanders should check these guys out because this is, I hate to say the word, but it's a game changer.
You've always heard the happy wife, happy life thing, but damn it, I don't like the cold either. Right? So to me, it makes sense. I've been looking at the Milwaukee ones, but like iHood, you mentioned is the company name on this one. Yep. Perfect. So check those out because I think you're right. I think it is a game changer, for this, even for the shoulder seasons.
Yeah.
The October and the March and stuff like that.
And I think I said in my video too, that this isn't really meant for a winter jacket.
Right.
But I'm telling you, I was out and in the cold the other day and it was getting down to the -1, -2, and I was still pretty warm in it.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah. And I wasn't wearing a sweater. I was wearing like a thin shirt and I had this jacket on and I was almost to the point that I was sweaty. So that's pretty decent.
There you go, Trisha.
I know.
That's pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah. See, you're writing that one down.
No, I made it in my notes right here.
I thought.
That might have to make our Christmas wish list next year.
Yeah, there you go.
So we've gone through your overlanding and your camping and stuff like that. And it was, as we mentioned, you've got the YouTube channel at Jendell Overland. A lot of your videos, there seems to be, we'll go through some of the things on them. You've got everything from event coverage, like the Overland North events, and you've got just regular camping events, and you got some wheeling, stuff like that. What are you using for camera gear?
Actually, I use my iPhone mostly. I got the GoPro 10.
Okay.
And for my drones, I just upgraded from the DJI Mini 3 to the DJI Mini 4.
Okay.
And
nice.
The reason why I thought that must be a must is because it has the side sensors on it.
Yeah.
A few times with my Mini 3, I slammed that thing into a few trees. Yeah.
Are you really a drone operator and a YouTuber if you haven't hit trees with your drone?
Well, isn't that right? So I actually, if you watch one of my videos when I was up in Madawaska, I drowned it.
Oh, no.
It actually lands right in the water and right in the middle of my video. We're like,
That's it. I mean, for the amount of abuse that these drones go through, you got to admit that most guys throw on a new propeller and you're good kind of idea. These things get abused. They're bouncing into trees, like you say, they're going into water, and they take a lot of abuse for what they are, really.
Well, I suggest to anybody who's going to go out and purchase one of these things, get the DJI Care plan.
Yes.
It's the insurance plan for these things. So if you do break the gimbal on it or you drown it or something, pay a small little fee and you get a brand new one.
There you go. Smart. Very good idea.
Definitely. I paid $1,800 for my drone for it to be drowned. $100 is not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
For a plan. So
For sure. Well, for sure.
Yeah. When are you getting a drone, Trisha?
I know, right? I need to get one. I do. I do. I think I have steady hands. I think I could be very good at it.
That's the big thing with this Mini 4 is you can drive, hit follow me, and you don't even need to touch it. It does it all for you. It's all automated.
Automated, yeah. It's cool.
It's really interesting. I've got a number of friends with drones, and it's been really fun watching them over, say, the span of a couple of years on how they've improved. And it just takes practice, just getting out there and doing it. And it's been really fun watching them take a 2-year-old video and I look at a new one and it's, wow, man, you guys have really done well. So it's just a matter of time, right? Like anything. Do you have some recommendations for gear without spending thousands of dollars?
If you're out there and you're just starting and you think you want to start and try to do overlanding, you don't need to start with all that stuff. You can go down to a Canadian Tire, Home Depot, or anything like that. Buy yourself a Coleman single burner stove for under $100.
Yep.
The Set Power fridge that was just sent to me that I was just trying out, that's a budget-friendly fridge. My Dometic, I paid over $1,700 for. This Set Power fridge is under $500.
Yeah.
Or you can get yourself a cooler, for that matter. Throw some ice in it and keep your stuff nice and cool and fresh. Yep. So overlanding doesn't have to be about all this glamorous gear. You can do it on a budget. You can do it. Go out and get yourself a ground tent and an air mattress.
Yep.
You don't need a rooftop tent. And at Overland North, there's a lot of people there that actually have ground tents.
Yep.
They park right.
I was rocking a ground tent for the last couple of years. After my split, when I moved out, I didn't have a rooftop tent to work with. And I ran a ground tent for a couple of years. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah. Still ground tent.
There you go. Watching channels like mine or Story Till Now or Ozark Overland Adventures, it's easy to get caught up in all of our gear.
Yeah.
But you can easily get started for under $1,000.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the other things too, when I did move back from Ontario, is I sold everything when I moved back and I started out fresh, but I actually hit some of the secondhand stores. The silverware, 10 cents for a piece of silverware. And there's camping stoves I bought there. And so or Facebook Marketplace is another great idea.
Say that Facebook Marketplace is a good place.
Yeah.
Gee, all that stuff. Yeah. They didn't have that stuff back then. So
exactly. So there's Facebook Marketplace is great, especially in the spring. Keep an eye out for, even when you talk about, you don't have to go to a rooftop tent, but there's lots of rooftop tents that are popping up for sale that have only been used 4 or 5 times. People decide they don't want to do this overlanding thing and they're picking up rooftop tents and using them for one season and then going on to a full-size trailer or something. And lots of definitely good deals on used stuff out there.
Yeah,
sure.
And there's actually a Facebook group that is Overland Trading Gear.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great ideas for sure. Yeah. There's so many. Budget Overlanding is another good Facebook group. And he's actually got a podcast, Benji does, called Budget Overlanding. But that's another great group with a lot of good ideas on how to do this on a budget because not everybody can afford to, or not everybody needs to. So
sure.
But man, scottles are cool.
They are. They definitely are.
Yeah. So what drew you to doing a YouTube channel?
I started a different YouTube channel. I've been on YouTube since YouTube was new. And I play guitar.
Okay.
And I have a guitar channel. I'm a big Kiss fan.
Yeah.
And I would play Kiss songs on YouTube. And I actually got 2,000 subscribers playing Kiss songs.
Nice.
But because I was playing all these copyrighted material, I didn't realize that at the time you couldn't get monetized on YouTube because you use so much.
Yeah.
And I wound up changing that channel to JL Johnny's Jeep Life. That was my YouTube channel. And I built it and I used it for a couple of years. And that was with the Sahara. And once I decided, okay, now I'm going to become an overlander thing, I decided I'm going to open up an entirely new YouTube channel. And that was Jendell Overland. This channel has only been open for 2 years. I've got 8,700 subscribers. I put out a video like every week. And I just watch a lot of these other YouTubers and I really enjoy watching them. And it really influences me on what I want to do with my time. When I actually started Jendell Overland, getting back to actually the red Jeep, I did some overlanding and I did some rock crawling.
Cool.
Right? And you'll see some early videos in Jendell Overlanding that I have some rock crawling videos.
Yep.
When I bought the two Jeeps, I bought one for overlanding and one for rock crawling. And I picked them both at the same time just to figure out which one I liked better. Now I've did both and I enjoyed both. My wife enjoyed overlanding much more than rock crawling. I enjoyed overlanding more than rock crawling because in the long run, it was cheaper because I wasn't breaking stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah.
There's actually one video where I actually almost flipped my Jeep.
I was going to ask you about that. That was the question I was going to ask. So your wife was there that day when you had this, you had your Jeep, look, and he's literally belly up.
Yeah.
About to tip forward.
He was holding the camera. She was filming. And I don't think I've ever seen her turn that shade of purple before because she was terrified. Every time we got to an obstacle that was too steep, she would hop out. And not because she wanted to film, but because she didn't want to be in the Jeep when it flipped over. It got to the point when we were at Ardbeg. Ardbeg is one of the rock crawling places in Ontario. Yep. And it's probably the most challenging in Ontario. And anytime we would go there, she would spend more time out of the Jeep than inside the Jeep. I think overlanding beat out rock crawling because she enjoyed it. And I enjoyed both the same amount.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what's your preference?
I love rock crawling just as much as I like overlanding. But because it was something that we both enjoyed, was overlanding more, then I decided, okay, that beat out the rock crawling. At the end of the year, my Gladiator had 36,000 kilometers on it, and my Wrangler had 6,500 kilometers on it.
Big difference.
So that kind of tells you what I did more of, and I did more overlanding than I did rock crawling. I didn't really need two Jeeps, so I wound up picking the best out of the two for my needs, which was the Gladiator. I wound up selling the Wrangler, and somebody out there got one heck of a good deal.
Is it still in the London area?
I think it wound up going to the States, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst things of selling a vehicle that you've put your time and money into, and then you see it going around town, and you're like, oh, that looks so good. I shouldn't have left. So
now it's funny that you say that. When I sold my Trans Am, actually I sold it to a guy up in Sudbury. I didn't sell it locally because I didn't want to ever see it again. For that exact reason, right? A guy locally came to me and he had the cash for it and he wanted to buy it. And I said, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to see it. So same thing with the Sahara. It wound up going to the States and the Rubicon wound up going to the States.
Having owned both and they're set up identical, there's obviously differences between the two vehicles. The Gladiator has a lot longer wheelbase. Did you notice a big difference in driving both on-road and off-road on these vehicles?
Actually, the Gladiator handled better, but it also had all that weight on it. Because once the tent and the cap went on, it stays on permanently. You can take it off, but I choose not to, right? So the Wrangler being a lot lighter, it did have a little bit of sway in the steering, which that's a very common thing for Wranglers. And the Gladiator didn't have that at all. But it could be the steering stabilizer I had on both, because I put the Falcon steering stabilizer on both of them. But yeah, I think the weight distribution on the Gladiator helped it glide down the road a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think the longer wheelbase and the weight distribution, it just popped in my head because there's not many people that have had the chance to own and drive virtually the same vehicle, but a Gladiator or a JLU. So I figured that the Gladiator would handle a little better based on the wheelbase. So
right. Now, I tell you, I did try a little bit of crawling in the Gladiator.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know the term, but I would get turtled.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's on a JLU, the 4-door, or the 2-door actually is even a smaller wheelbase.
Yep.
That's next to impossible to happen on those things on some of the obstacles that I was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, and very easy on the Gladiator because of that long wheelbase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you that is off topic, but on topic. A friend and I were texting back and forth this morning, and I'm going to post this up on Instagram tomorrow. So when you guys do listen to this, go back onto our Instagram if you have not seen the post and chime in your thoughts on it. But why does every YouTube channel either have a Jeep or a bloody Tacoma? Like every channel has that, right? And my friend also has a Dodge Dakota on 40s. He always loves different vehicles, but I had to agree with them. I'm like, every YouTube channel out there is a JLU or Gladiator or a Tacoma. And they're seeing the same video over and over with just a different colored Jeep kind of idea.
They're definitely the most capable for off-roading, that's for sure.
Out of the box.
Yeah. Out of the box.
Yeah, exactly. Without putting all that time and money into, say, his solid axle Dakota. But for our listeners out there, if you have a suggestion for a YouTube channel that has a different vehicle, we definitely want to hear about them. Yeah. Not that we don't like Jeeps. So here, Johnny, he's had both Jeeps. Trisha, she's got a Jeep, and I've got a Tacoma. We can't really say anything about that.
No, but you're right, Wes. It would be cool to hear from other people or to see if there's other YouTube channels.
There is other ones out there. Because when I had my Xterra, I obviously followed some of the Nissan boys. Mm-hmm. And you take a look at Mike from The Unexpected Off-Road. He drives a Hummer H2, and he does lots of good videos. But it's something that, like I said, I'm going to post up on Instagram with that question. I'll do a little thing on it tonight. But listeners, if you guys have some suggestions on YouTube channels to follow that are not a Jeep or a Tacoma, we want to hear them because it's definitely different. And I didn't mean to really throw the interview off that way, but it was. We drive Jeeps and Tacomas, so we can't really say much. But like you say, they're out of the box. They're both great vehicles. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You've attended a number of Overland North events. Can you explain to our listeners what the events are and then your thoughts on them?
Sure. Okay. So Overland North is much as I describe in my videos as the Canadian version of Overland Expo. It's a 3-day event, get together for Overland enthusiasts like yourself. And we meet up with people and talk about stuff like gear and trips that we've been on, what equipment we're using, and how we built out our rigs. But it's much more than that. There's many vendors there at these events. And if you see somebody with something awesome on their rigs, chances are one of these vendors is going to have it.
No.
They also have demonstrations for recovery, and they have guests there that host videos and slideshows of their off-road experiences as well.
They're quite an interesting event, and they've made some changes this year. I don't know if you happen to see this yet, Trisha, but this just got announced on Friday. Yeah, that they made some changes. The Muskoka Rally, they're now moving to June from September, and that's June 7th to 9th. And the rally is moving up into Calabogie on August 23rd to 25th.
Yeah.
So a different venue. That's going to be interesting. I know you love the whole Calabogie area, Trisha, and I'm not sure if you've spent much time up there, Johnny, or not, but
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I was talking to Luke, I don't know, a week ago or so, and he's so excited about this, and there's even more stuff coming down the trail, and we'll get those guys back on the podcast for sure, because that was a really fun interview. And I agree, the Overland North events seem like a lot of fun. From my understanding, quite a well-run event. Trisha, your first Overland North event was last year. And we're going to be back, or I should say Trisha's going to be back next year at one or hopefully both these events. And we'll, if they run at the Johnny.
They actually have a third one. They have a winter one.
They do have a winter one.
Are you going to do it this year?
Definitely. Oh yeah. It's definitely for the diehards who enjoy winter camping. That's for sure.
Like, well, I'm going to stay out of that one for this year.
Get yourself a Beaver. You'll be fine.
Now Johnny's got the diesel heater. He's all set, right?
That's it. Yeah.
But I just want to say one other thing about building the friendships and the camaraderie at these events.
Yeah.
You're building a family. Now, you've heard of the term Jeep family, but there's an Overland family as well.
Yep.
And let me tell you, you might have seen the video, but I actually got stuck on a road in the wintertime. And it wasn't a trail, it was just a road, but it had a lot of snow on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on one of these Facebook posts, and the guys from Overland North came out with a crew and saved me that day. So that is pretty awesome.
It's all about building a family. It's an Overland family, like you say, right? And
absolutely.
And one of the neat things I like about these events, I mean, whether it be the Overland North events in Ontario or the Overland Rally in BC, the Alberta Outdoor Adventure Show, same idea in regards to it's all about these relationships that you build there. And it's mind blowing how many people you see next year and the year after. And you say you build these relationships and they end up going on different trips with them and stuff like that. So
yeah, for sure. They actually even hold a trip while you're there just to give you the off-road experience for somebody who's never done it. Like a newbie run, they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Trisha, they did some driver training at the one last year in June that you attended. And even though you're a seasoned wheeler, it was neat for you to go through it in your vehicle and with some of that, right? So
the full recovery course, and it was cool. It was definitely cool. I learned a lot, and you're always learning, so it was good just to learn more. And the event was great, and the whole weekend was great, actually. So I'm definitely gonna head.
It's always good there. It's always good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too, speaking of Facebook, is they have a Facebook group that is quite a popular group on Facebook, Overland NTH on Facebook. And it's a good group for overlanding in Ontario, or getting ideas and suggestions on gear and suggestions on areas and stuff like that too. Definitely worth checking them out. I can't wait to get these guys back on the show and see what's coming up in the new year. And too bad, Trisha, you won't see you at the winter one. When I first heard it, I'm like, who's going to do this? But I was like, okay, diesel heaters, and we can keep warm around the fire and go from there. So I think it's actually a really good idea. It's a true Canadian event, right? What is a piece of your camping or wheeling gear that has surprised you with either the quality or how much you end up using it?
I would have to think my deck drawer system.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the Jeep being as high as it is, I couldn't get to the stuff in the back. And now I just have to pull open the drawer and I can reach everything at ease.
Yeah.
That has been a lifesaver for sure.
And a back saver. You don't have to crawl in to get stuff. And
yeah, absolutely. Now, I'd like to put a little spin on this question and do the exact opposite and tell you something that I thought I was really going to like, turned out to be quite useless. And that was the RSI kitchen.
Oh, really? Okay.
So the RSI, you've got the bins that open on the side, the doors that open on the side, you can access some bins for storage. Yep. On the passenger side, you had a one burner stove that would actually come out of the bin. It would fold right out. But because my Jeep was so high, I was cooking at eye level, waist level, which is quite dangerous. And if you're frying eggs or something, you're going to, and it shoots grease off, you're going to get that right in the face. And,
bacon at eye level is not a good idea.
No. You're going to cook at waist level if you're going to be cooking at all. And that, I think that if my Jeep wasn't lifted, it would have been fine, but it was 5 feet off the ground. So, and my wife didn't even use it at all because she couldn't reach it.
Yeah, that's understandable. I've got a fold-out table that I put alongside the bed of my truck under my awning because I'm thinking the same thing. By the time you end up getting it's going to end up being too high. Even if it's chest height, it's still too high, right? So that totally makes sense. I get where you're coming from on that for sure.
So I had it installed for, 3 trips, and then I uninstalled it. It's been sitting in my garage ever since. Yeah.
So speaking of camping, what do you guys do when you're out camping in regards to food?
I'm a creature of habit. My wife's a creature of habit. So it doesn't take a lot of imagination when we go. We know what we're going to bring with us.
Yep.
I've got actually one trip last year, we took the Dutch oven out, used the Shanko, and we cooked a roast off grid. That was actually really good.
Nice.
Roast, potatoes and corn and onions and all that. It was delicious. Yeah. And we didn't see anybody for a whole week, and we were out. It was awesome.
That is great. I find that question quite interesting because a lot of people, you can have anybody, some people are just happy with hot dogs and ramen noodles. And then you get other guys like Dwayne from Just Jeeping Adventures. I don't know if you follow him on YouTube, but some of his food that him and his wife cook up are just amazing. I'm still going on about these cinnamon bun pancakes and stuff like that, right? Like they go all out, speaking of which, I do have to go camping with them next year. Just for the food aspect. But I'm in the middle. It all depends on my mood, and ultimately it depends on what time you arrive at camp and that. So,
well, Mark and Karen, who we go camping with, he's a lot like Marco, where he is quite the chef. And Tracy and I will be sitting there and we'll be smelling their food, and we're like, oh, wow, that smells good. Well, we bring steaks with us. We bring chicken with us. We eat better on the road than we do at home sometimes.
Yeah. I hear you that quite often. Yeah. A lot of it goes into the prep too, right? Like I'll do a bunch of prep at home, and then that way you don't have to do it on the trail or at the campsite. So
absolutely.
That goes a long ways for sure.
So I make my home fries for breakfast every day, and it's already marinated by the time I cut the bag open and put it on the scotch. Yeah.
And even, speaking of like potatoes and that, I microwave them at home first. Yeah. And then that way they don't need as much time on the camp stove or the griddle or whatever.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of your sponsors, starting with our friends at Red Bear Outdoors in Toronto. We interviewed Mike back in March, I believe it was, and we've kept in contact throughout the year. And what a great bunch of people down at Red Bear Outdoors.
Oh, yeah. Mike's great.
Yeah.
They're located in Toronto, and you can pretty much go there and get a complete build for your overland rig that you're going to build. They don't just focus on Jeeps either. I know they've got a lot of Rams in there. They got a lot of Tacos in there. They got everything in there. They work on every makes and model, well, within reason, of course.
I didn't realize that until our interview, but they get right into building full electrical systems if you need it. And
they do, yeah.
And all that. And they're getting into storage stuff now too. I know they're just down at the Overland Expo East doing some work with some of their new storage stuff. So
yeah,
we got to get them back on at that for sure.
Now they are actually the Ontario dealer for Quick Pitch.
Yes.
Yeah. So, which is
one thing I'll say about Quick Pitch, they got a great tent, but their awning, I don't know if you've seen their awning, but I've seen their awning in person. I've seen their awning in person in wind, and their awning from Quick Pitch is absolutely incredible. I can't recommend it enough. It's going to be one of my big purchases next year for my rig and get rid of my small awning, but it doesn't require poles, but just the way it's designed and how it's made is it stands up in the wind really well compared to a lot of the other manufacturers.
I think that will be my next awning once I go to replace this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't recommend it enough, Johnny. Like I say, I've seen it in high wind applications and it's been a standout for sure.
Getting back to Mike, they're not just about campers though. I've bought gear from them. They sell tents and etc. But I bought my fridge from them. I've gotten my jet boil stove I got from them, and I even got my fire extinguishers from them. They're a one-stop shop. They sell everything that you need
and they ship out everywhere too. So they'll ship out across Canada if need be. So great bunch of guys out at Red Bear Outdoors. I definitely recommend going back, if you haven't listened to our interview with them, going back and listen to our interview. They're not guys just selling product because they happen to have it. They're real users of the product. They're guys that have come out west and they've gone up into Yukon and Tuktoyaktuk and stuff like that. So they actually use their product, which to me is a huge thing, rather than some guys that just want to push you whatever they happen to have in stock.
That's right.
So they actually use their products and they can make recommendations based on that. Great bunch of guys there for sure. So,
most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Trisha, have you seen the fold up fire reflector from MC Ranch Overland from BC? I know that's another sponsor of Jendell Overland. Johnny, can you explain that one to me? I've seen it. It works awesome, but to Trisha and her listeners, if you can explain that.
Okay. So it's a 4-panel plate that's made out of aluminum, and you put it in front of your fire.
Okay.
So it does 2 things. It blocks wind from blowing on your fire, but if you're sitting too close and it's really cold out, it'll actually reflect the heat back to you.
Okay.
Now, instead of the heat from the flame going 360 degrees, it's going only 180 degrees and then bouncing back right at you. So
I think I saw that on your page. I think it's
yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you're talking. Okay.
And it's really effective. And I was out in a snow blizzard last year up in Killarney, and I had that out, and I tell you, that saved my life that night. That's for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, especially for the wintertime, your shoulder seasons as well. But I've seen these guys at the Overland Rally in BC, and I know a few people running their gear. And Johnny, I can't agree with you more. It's a really neat product, and it's not that bad of a price either. I can't remember what it is offhand, but it, like I say, it reflects that heat back at you. And it's, especially for winter camping, I think it's a wonderful idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not only that, it also reflects the light too. That's one thing that it gets overlooked a lot too. If it's dark out, it reflects a lot of light as well from the fire.
I didn't think of that. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Sudbury Solar Solutions. I assume they do solar stuff.
That's not all they do, but that's a big part of it. Yeah. I also got a hot shower stall.
I saw that.
Also, that's through Sudbury Solar Solutions. I was introduced to Sudbury Solar Solutions through my buddy Mark. You've seen him in my videos.
Yeah.
Now, Dennis is the owner of Sudbury Solutions, and he's sponsored my channel throughout 2023 by supplying me with the Anchor 2000 watt-hour power station. He wanted me to check it out for the year, and at the end of the year, we would trade it back and upgrade for the newest model. But I have something that I haven't announced on my channel yet, which I haven't told anybody about it yet, but Sudbury Solar Solutions teamed up with Volthium Energy and sent me a power management system for my Jeep.
Nice.
It's the self-heating 150 amp hour lithium battery, and it will solve all my power needs while I'm off grid for sure.
I'm really looking forward to seeing a video on this when you do it with the install and that, because that's something I'm in the market for in the springtime. Lithium and solar, I know enough to make me dangerous.
Well, so I'm really, it's easier than you think. It's easier than So
I tend to overthink things.
I know a lot of people use the Red Arc system, but I went with the Victron system, the DC charger. And that's going to be charging from my alternator. And then I'm using the full solar charge controller for the solar panels.
Have you installed them yet?
We just actually finished installing it this week.
Okay.
Video will be out in a couple of weeks.
Perfect. Okay, good.
The solar panels are from Bouge RV, but I won't be installing those until the spring because it's too cold for the adhesive to attach to anything.
Gotcha. I'm excited to see this video and see over the next few months how you're using it in that, because like I say, it is something I am in the market for by springtime, and I want to learn more about not only the solar stuff, but also lithium batteries and the controllers and all that. So definitely looking forward to seeing that.
Mark has it set up in his Jeep, and he really sold me on the idea because I was out there with the Anchor and it was a cloudy day, overcast, and my battery was getting low. and I couldn't charge with the solar panels. He had this lithium setup, and he was at 100%. He was getting a charge.
Yeah, that's so I've got a fold up portable solar panel that I have been using, but it's just not where I want to be. And lithium has been on my mind. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And so that is Sudbury Solar Solutions. Where are they based out of? Are they actually out of Sudbury?
They're right in Sudbury, yeah.
Okay. And I assume they ship out as well too.
They ship Canada-wide, yeah.
Yeah. Being based in the middle of nowhere, they have to ship out.
Now, one thing I would suggest to you, Wes, because being in Canada and the cold temperatures, make sure when you go for lithium that you get the self-heating lithium battery. The non-self-heating are no good under 5 degrees.
Okay.
There is a chemical that's released when you're charging a battery under a certain temperature.
Yeah.
The self-heating would fix all that for you.
That is a really good point. I think the lithium, it's something that maybe we may have to get him on the show to do an interview, but because I have a lot of questions about lithium, I have a lot of questions about solar and that. And I know a lot of our guests would as well. So it might be worth talking to him on some of this stuff, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I can definitely hook you up with Sudbury Solar Solutions so you can get all your questions answered. I know a guy who knows a guy.
One of our last ones is the J.A. Schenk, and that is SCHENK. I don't know if you saw this at the Overland North exhibit, Tricia, but they got a really neat campfire cooking racks. Johnny, can you explain this to us?
He actually wasn't at Overland North.
Oh, he wasn't? Okay.
This year, so you didn't get to meet him, but this is a really neat setup. It's like a huge O-ring so that your Dutch oven can fit inside it. But it's a setup that is for cooking on an open fire. So there's nothing like eating a steak from an actual flame rather
100%.
than from a coal or something like that, or from propane. This setup is to die for. I just love the taste and the flavor from the actual wood that is burning. And it's rates. You get a nice big, huge box that he made. It was a nice wooden box, or it also comes into a nice duffel bag. So it's easy to put away.
Yeah, and it's basically a ring that goes over top of your regular campfire. And it's adjustable height-wise too, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Plus, you also get the grate that goes on top for cooking surface.
Yeah. No, it's something I've seen a while ago, and I think they're a great idea. We talk with YouTubers, obviously, because we want to learn about them and we want to help promote their channels. And a big thing with us is promoting Canadian companies. And that's one of the reasons we're asking about J.A. Schenk.
It's funny because the first time I ever seen the Schenk system, it was on an Epic Family Road Trip video.
Oh, really?
And I was like, what the heck is that they're using? I think that's so cool. And I went to an Overland Supply Expo in Toronto. It was an indoor event, and it was selling gear. It wasn't a camping show or anything. It was just a gear show. And he was there. And I was like, hey, I saw that on the Epic Family Road Trip. And then all of a sudden we became best of friends. So yeah, he's a great guy and really awesome gear that he made. And it's all handmade. He makes it all himself, which is pretty awesome. I think he's based out of Dundas, Ontario, which is just outside of Toronto.
So one of your other sponsors is Forest City Dodge. Where are they out? Are they out of the London area?
Yeah. So Forest City Dodge is in London, Ontario. And full disclosure, I actually work there.
Okay.
I work in the marketing department, and they've played a huge role in my Jeep life.
Yeah.
When I bought my Sahara, I didn't work there, so I paid sticker price. But being an employee there, I got employee pricing, and which saved me a small fortune. And I got all the Mopar parts at employee pricing.
Right.
So that really helped me out quite a bit. Plus, I held 2 huge Jeep shows there that had a few hundred people come to each show, and we raised money for breast cancer research. So it was a huge success for both of those shows. So Yeah, it was definitely awesome to have them. And they support my channel and make things happen for my channel as well. So that's pretty awesome.
I think it's really neat seeing some of these Jeep dealers and, Dodge dealers stepping up to the plate when it comes to this whole overlanding theme. There's the support for it that we've seen out of some of the Jeep dealers like Forest City Dodge has been really interesting over the last couple of years. And now you can get so many accessories that are still warranty friendly, like your Mopar lift and all that stuff is all still warranty friendly and you can wrap it all into one package, right? You can go in there and you can spend another 10 grand in accessories or whatever you want and throw that into your financing. And I think that's something that's quite interesting for
that's a big part
lot of people. Right? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's huge.
If you go out west, you can get a Hemi put in your Jeep from the dealership.
Yeah, from White Rock Dodge. And
you've got that right.
You had a Demon engine and was 840 horsepower supercharged or turbocharged. And yeah, there's quite a few guys running those over here. So I shouldn't say quite a few. There's a number that on YouTube. And great group, great bunch of guys. That's what I'm trying to say at there. But it's really neat seeing these guys, these Jeep dealers step up and offering that kind of packages, whether it be a Mopar lift through Forest City Dodge or a Demonator engine through White Rock Dodge.
And I think it's smart on their end because
it is.
Who better to tell how awesome a Jeep is, but the people who are actually out there using it.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, if I'm going to go buy a new Jeep, chances are, being based in BC, I would definitely be talking to the guys at White Rock Dodge. Even if I didn't get a V8 engine, it's something that I know they support a number of the people in the industry, and I would be seriously considering working with them because they support others in the industry, right? So same thing with Forest City Dodge. If you guys are in Toronto or something like that, it's worth at least talking to the guys out at Forest City in London. It's only a couple hours away, right?
So I know the sales guys there actually deliver to Toronto all the time too.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. Trisha, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay. Do you have any other questions that overran things there a bit? I'm sorry.
No. Nothing.
Do you want to ask the last question?
I can ask the last question, yes. Okay, so our last question we usually ask our guest is, what Canadian would you like to listen to on our 4x4 Canada podcast?
Okay, so there is a guy that is well known, and you've probably heard of him. His YouTube channel is Cheaper Jeeper TV. Dino's a great guy, and he loves to share his ideas on how to save money and everything that's related to Jeeps. So I would definitely recommend him. He's a really good talker. He knows his stuff, and I think he would be a great guest on this show.
I agree with you. I do follow his channel, and I definitely agree that he's got a little bit of event coverage, but he's got a lot of the product coverage as well. And he does a very good job, I think. Us Jeeper TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he goes under. Yeah. Yeah, definitely want to get him on board for sure, too.
Now, talking about why do people drive Jeeps and not other vehicles, he actually left the Jeep world and bought a Honda Ridgeline, and he's now back in the Jeep world. So that's something, right?
I totally understand that.
And speaking about product reviews, being a YouTuber has some perks. You saw the video that I posted a couple weekends ago about the Set Power fridge. They got a hold of me to give them an honest and unbiased review and share it with my viewers. Now, there's a few people that have come to me and asked me if I wanted to review their gear. And I've had to turn them down because it's not something that I would have on my Jeep. So I'm not going to promote it to go onto your Jeep. Right?
Yep.
I was approached by this company. They're called Set Power. And they said they wanted me to try out their fridge. I think a fridge is an essential part of overlanding because you got to eat, right?
Okay.
And as I was mentioning earlier, the Dometic fridge is $1,700. So I figured I would try this fridge out and give an alternative to people out there that are on a budget. Mm-hmm. And maybe this could work for them. But to be honest and to be fair, I've only had it for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to do another review on it in a year or so and let you know how good it is.
I think that would be an update video. I think is a great idea. And I do like your thought process of only working with companies of stuff that you would do. I think sometimes it's hard to tell what's a sales pitch and what's a real honest review with some channels. Not saying yours, but some other channels. And that's the same thing that we strive with. We do have some product that we have either bought or that has been given to us. And Tricia and I are going to be doing some product reviews and being blunt honest about it. So I appreciate where you're coming from on that, because that's, it's also your reputation online too, right? So,
well, and even iHood said to me, they said, we would like you to do a video. It doesn't have to be pro iHood. It doesn't have to be against iHood. Just be honest and let me know how you feel about it. And I was, right? So I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think of it overall? I've watched the video, and I do recommend our listeners go to Jendell Overland and on YouTube and watch the video. But just a quick, what did you think?
For the fridge, I thought it was great. It didn't leak any air out, which is one of my concerns being a cheaper fridge. I thought, okay, is it gonna spoil all my food? And no, it worked great. It was actually a bit bigger than my Dometic fridge, so I was scared that it wouldn't fit in the back of my Jeep, but it did. It did, even with the deck system. I think it's going to be a good fridge after all. I have a Yeti cooler that I put my drinks in the summertime, and Yeti's known for really keeping the cold air in. And on a really hot summer day, all the ice is melted and my drinks are all wet. I think I'm going to keep this Set Power fridge inside and keep it for my drinks for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing what you have to say after a year or so, the end of next season, and just see how it handled over the years. So
we've got a lot of exciting things planned for this year coming up too.
Cool. Once again, we're talking to Johnny from Jendell Overland. You can check him out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Jendel Overland, and got a lot of great videos out. It's going to only be the blue Gladiator from now on, but I'm really looking forward to seeing some of your videos coming up. I know you've got, like you mentioned, you got some exciting things coming up, and there's always the Overland North event. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of your winter camping stuff with this year too. So yeah. Not to mention your solar system.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm excited about that for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks again, Johnny. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late over there in Ontario, and same with you, Tricia. I appreciate you staying up late. But once again, Jendell Overland, check him out on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, and give him a follow, share all those things, and keep an eye on him for next year. It's going to be an exciting year, I think. So
I would definitely appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks again, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. Take care, guys.